For people who join us live, Digital Asset Revolution, Mike, thank you for joining us live. Really appreciate it. We'll probably just wait a few minutes for people, if there's any people that want us to join us live. The show is being recorded as I do every week. BRIK Q&A is recorded. We do put it across the various social media platforms like YouTube and Spotify and a few others. So there's a few spots. So actually, it's also been recorded. The video's also been recorded. So there will be a video version of it on YouTube, on our BRIK Projects YouTube channel. So you can choose audio, you can choose to see me. It's there are different ways to play it. But as I said, just before we sort of get stuck into today's topic, and a few points here that I want to cover, probably just reflect on the past week. Obviously, I think most countries around the world had the interest rate rises. And we had ours yesterday. We had a 0.25% increase in our interest rates, which was always going to be the case. I think there was even actually a possibility even of a 0.5 that the markets were sort of started talking about it, but it was only 0.25. I think US during the week also had their interest rate rises. And I think it's been a common denominator across all countries that trying to get inflation under control. They seem to have this magic figure in terms of what inflation levels they think they want to get to. I know we have ours, but again, it's we won't sort of dwell on that too much, but it does actually impact people's ability to obviously buy real estate when the rates continue to go up. So that's a story in itself. Also been, as I usually do in terms of my BRIK walks, I like to sort of share what's happening around our city, about the Brisbane city, as well as the Gold Coast. So I always put some photos. I've actually also been minting the photos as NFTs. So it's on the blockchain, recorded forever and ever. So we mint that. I mint actually when I'm on the go. Minted on the Mango Farm wallet. Easy, just mint up a photo on there and put a few details. So today, actually, I got some from this morning. So Mike, that given that you actually join us live, I will be sending you one of those from this morning. So I hope you enjoy that. And if there's anybody else that comes live here, they'll be able to receive that as a gift, as an NFT gift of a photo from Brisbane City CBD around this morning from my walk. So it's what else has been happening? Last weekend, Bravelands, the Ravencoin community had we had the Braveland Jams on the Beach, which is a metaverse environment, no need for goggles. It's just a PC or a Mac. You just download the software and you'll be able to create your avatar. So we got together. It's the first Saturday of the month, first Saturday US, that is, first Saturday of the month, should I say, that we have that where the community gets to get together and people share in terms of what projects they're minting on the Ravencoin blockchain, whether even some the things that are coming up in terms of their plan to create projects on the Ravencoin blockchain. Also in terms of what people are buying across different projects on the Ravencoin blockchain. So again, we are very honoured to be the first real estate property to tokenize on the Ravencoin blockchain. So we did that last year with the BRIK Dolphin token series. So hopefully my colleagues around the world who are tokenizing or planning to tokenize real estate will see that as a home to tokenize their real estate as well on the Ravencoin blockchain. So little plug there for the chain. So and again, so it's yes, it's actually I do put some of the tweets up around Braveland. So again, there's a video up. It's on our YouTube channel in terms of what actually happened there, so you can check out the activities. But yeah, so probably on 5 past now. Well, we'll get started. We'll try to keep it precise. Sometimes the short and sweet's the best to get across the points and to make people aware in terms of what we're doing at BRIK Q&A. It's not to take too much time of people's day. But yeah, look, it is 6 p.m. here in just after 6 p.m. here in Australia, which in Asia is in the afternoon. Europe's starting to wake up. It is the morning. In Africa is morning. So we've got different time zones. Unfortunately, US and Canada, they're sound asleep late night, very early morning. So so again, we just tried to change this around, just to sort of be able to people around the world to be able to come in live. So we again, it's as I said, it's being recorded, so people can actually check out the recordings on those various spots. But yeah, look, in terms of again, probably a bit of introduction. So I'm Miguel Aleixo. I am the Manager Director and co-founder of BRIK VC Projects. We take as real estate property in Australia. We focus on the luxury real estate investment properties in 3 areas: Brisbane, the Gold Coast, as well as the Sunshine Coast next year. So at the moment, we've got the BRIK Dolphin property, which is on the Gold Coast property, and the BRIK Koala, which is a Brisbane property. So they're the 2 live areas at the moment that people can actually buy property tokens in these 2 specific properties. Again, we at BRIK VC, we provide access to, in terms of the exposure to real estate, to anybody from anywhere in the world. So there's no restrictions. There's no in terms of being an accredited investor or a sophisticated investor, whatever the case may be in terms of terms around the world. So there's no need for that. This is very much providing access to the everyday person, regardless of what part of the world you come from, regardless of your wealth status. So for under $100, you can start being exposed to the benefits of real estate property. But yeah, in terms of again, it's always just trying to sort of simplify things in terms of people that might be listening for the first time, in terms of what is tokenized real estate. So again, just a very brief. It's basically the ability to access real estate where the actual it's a property that's fractionalized into that the property tokens represent the actual ownership of the property, in terms of the benefits that come from that property is reflective in the actual property tokens. These property tokens are recorded on the blockchain, and basically can't change once it's recorded on the blockchain. So again, the blockchain is a very simple. The very simple explanation is just a public register. The database that's basically that anybody can see in terms of what's on that database. So if there's any movements in terms of people buying and selling, and it's all recorded on that public ledger, i.e. the blockchain. So again, this is the new frontier in terms of the ability for people from anywhere in the world to be able to buy property tokens that represents real estate behind them, in terms of the value behind those property tokens. Yeah, well, today's show, it's we're going to hone in terms of the rent side of things. These are investment properties. These are luxury investment properties, and they obviously generate rent each month. So what do we do with the rent is the central topic around this week. So basically, if I sort of go back a step in terms of sort of getting to the nitty-gritties around in terms of the rent side of things, probably in terms of, if I sort of reflect back in terms of Australian real estate property, the fundamentals around how we see real estate property. We very much here in Australia focus on the capital growth of properties as opposed to the cash flow properties. Some parts of the world, like US, some parts of the US tend to focus more on the cash flow rather than the capital growth. For example, some of the properties in Detroit, for example, that tend to be more cash flow focused rather than capital growth focused. Again, in Australia, we're very much the opposite. We tend to focus more on the capital growth. Here, in terms of when we start talking about gross returns, without getting sort of too into the numbers, and the boring side of things, but just to sort of give you an idea, when we talk about gross returns in terms of gross rent over the cost of property, the value of property here in Australia, if you're getting 3% gross returns, that's actually a reasonable return for residential property. That sort of seems to be the sort of acceptable in terms when it's talking about gross returns. Obviously, that's before expenses. But in terms of, we tend to focus more around the capital growth. I mean, here, where we're focusing in Brisbane and Gold Coast properties, I mean, historically, properties here always double up in value every 10 years. So you buy it 10 years, it'll be double the price. So again, this is why we focus so much on the capital growth and holding, obviously, real estate property long term in terms of how people create their wealth. So in terms of the, especially at the moment, in terms of what's happening in Southeast Queensland, so Southeast Queensland takes in terms of the areas we're focusing on, Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast. And if I can sort of go into those drivers, those three key drivers, that's really going to be pushing forward the property growth over the next 10 years and beyond, especially over the next 10 to 12 years. Some of these particular three drivers. Obviously, what we've had so far, we've had a lot of growth over the last 12 months. I mean, some places here in Brisbane have had some sort of 40% growth, 36% growth on the Gold Coast. So again, these are the areas we're focusing on. There's been quite a large growth over that period. In terms of what's happened post-COVID, it's caused a lot of shift in migration from other states, which has obviously increased the demand for our properties here. But in terms of what's been happening, and obviously gives implications in terms of what's happened next 10 years, and when we start talking about the financial modelling that we've done on these properties, we see three key areas in terms of what's driving the capital growth of these properties. So migration from other states, so the states of New South Wales and Victoria, specifically in terms of their capital cities, with Sydney from New South Wales and Melbourne in Victoria. We have a lot of migration coming up here. We have had which has caused a lot of the increase in property values, and we'll continue to have so because, again, after COVID, people are sort of chasing a better lifestyle in terms of the beaches and the weather, which we do have a superior lifestyle when it comes to the weather and from that aspect of things compared to down south in those other states. So people now, after COVID, people might have lost their jobs, their businesses, they've thought about coming up here, now they're coming up in droves. So interstate migration is causing a lot of our property value increases. Also, secondly, in terms of, just for some of the points here that I'll make sure that I'm not missing these key points, so I do apologise if I'm looking down at my points here. So, look, the expats, Australian expats have been working overseas. Again, post-COVID, we've seen a lot of them come back so far. And the ones that are planned, we're going to see quite a few more still continue to come back to Australia. Again, post-COVID, they realised that, money's not everything. They're earning quite a lot of good wages, where they're working in London, New York, LA, and other places around the world. But they've due to COVID, they've actually realised that they want to come back to their roots, whether they're sort of getting to the older part, sort of the older Australians that are sort of coming back to basically spend the rest of their lives back here in Australia, or they've or some of the other ones that have got young families that, in terms of raising their kids, actually back home here where their roots are. So we've seen a lot of expats, and we're also going to see a lot of just international migration because we're having major issues in terms of our labour resources here. So again, it's every business I speak to here around us, they continue to look for staff. It's hard to find staff, so we've got a massive issue with labour shortages. So again, they'll obviously drive a lot of migration from other countries to Australia, seeking opportunities. And obviously that comes with demand on housing and so forth. So that's sort of the second. That's the sort of second driver, as I said, international migration, whether it be the expats or just in general migrants coming to Australia. And the third one, which is obviously the 2032 Brisbane Olympics. So we haven't actually seen any of that so far. I mean, we've seen some civil projects starting to sort of ramp up in terms of the very basics in some civil works. around some of the Olympic sites, but nothing sort of from in terms of the actual impact on people moving here. It hasn't really sort of started. So, but obviously they'll again, our forecasting is probably around 3 years out. So around 2029, we expect that to start kicking into overdrive, because if we sort of looked at the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, 3 years before the Olympics, there was a massive turbocharge in the property values in Sydney. So again, we're going to see that sort of turbocharge happening around 3 years out, and that normally continues 2 years afterwards when you start talking about turbocharging of property values, and taking the cue from Sydney Olympics. That some of my contacts and friends that were there living and breathing, and some of the property developers are on the ground. That was sort of the general theme back in Sydney 2000 Olympics, when we start talking about property values. But yeah, so again, just sort of I just wanted to hone in terms of why capital growth continues to be critical in terms of our properties here. So we now talk about in terms of what does that mean from the properties, and I'll use the Gold Coast property, the BRIK Dolphin property token series. I'll use that as an example to be able to demonstrate the actual the capital growth and the cash flow in regards to that property. So I actually have pinned the on the Dolphin details there that shows net rent as well as the capital growth. So if we sort of firstly talk about the net rent, so this property, the Gold Coast property, it'll derive around $80,000 in gross rent per year. And again, when I talk about figures, I always like to talk about in US dollars, because it is very easy to, as a common sort of denominator, when we're sort of referencing dollar figures. So again, all these figures all in US dollars. But yeah, in terms of the gross rent is $80,000. So we sort of have a look in terms of what after expenses, in terms of taxes and so forth, what this property derives. You're down to around $31,000, just over $31,000 in net rent. That's around $2,600 per month in net rent after all expenses and taxes. So that's roughly around 77 cents per year per property token, per BRIK Dolphin token, which is around 6 cents per month. So it doesn't sound much, and there's a point to this. Well, I sort of like to highlight. If we have a look at the capital growth, this property, the Gold Coast property, again, in terms of our financial modelling that we've done, again, keeping very conservative, we see these properties growing over the next 10 years to around 4x. So the Dolphin token is a $2.6 million total cost. We see that being around $10.4 million come 2032. So again, 4x in terms of the growth of that property. So in terms of a property token in this BRIK Dolphin token series, it is $80 that people can buy. So when you sort of look at that forecasting out in terms of a property perspective, we see that it means around $260 in value per token come 2032. So again, just sort of giving you the feel as to what the property token is value now and what it will be given the property value in 10 years' time. So it works out to be around $260 per token in terms of its value, obviously backed by, as I said, backed by the actual real estate property. Our model, which we like to think we are sort of unique in that sense, and so we don't pay out the net rent. So the net rent that's derived, that goes into actually buying a cryptocurrency each month. So when we get the net rent, we allow, obviously after all taxes, we allow that to be invested into a crypto portfolio, which is roughly around, obviously in today's dollars, it's around $2,600 per month in net rent that's derived. So basically what we do, we actually buy cryptocurrency that is owned by this property token series. And basically we buy just blue chip. We stick to blue chip cryptos, like your Bitcoins, for example. And basically, regardless of the crypto market, that just keeps accumulating. So it's we don't time the market; just about every month we just buy, and basically that gets accumulated in this property tokens series. So the property is owned by a special purpose vehicle, a private company, Australian private company. And so will they have the actual crypto currencies will also be owned by the same special purpose vehicle. So again, it's about it just accumulating. And obviously, not only does the actual property token goes up in value with the property value, but also goes what we call the secondary asset, being the crypto portfolio. So that's obviously reflecting that. Again, it's hard to say in terms of 10 years what the crypto portfolio will be. I mean, we've put some estimates, very conservative estimates in terms of what we think. And again, in terms of if you have a look at that forecasting, we still like to think that the crypto portfolio will be around 4.2 mil in terms of obviously with buying along the journey and keep buying each month. That's sort of the value we see. Again, it's hard to say, but again, we are big believers in terms of what's happening with cryptocurrencies and obviously Bitcoin and Ravencoin and all the other blue chips cryptocurrencies. So again, we see that again, it is very hard to estimate. I mean, if you have a look in terms of the last even 5 years in terms of where the crypto market's gone, even obviously we've had a bit of a correction over the last 9 months in particular, but still in terms of it's still a lot higher than it was 5 years ago, right? So again, it's one of those ones. It's hard to predict. We just taken a very conservative approach as to what trying to estimate in terms of what the crypto portfolio will be valued at in 10 years' time. So and again, if it's a lot more, then that's fantastic. But again, it's one of those hard ones to predict. But all to say, it will be higher than it is today. So that's sort of the crust in terms of with what we do with the net rent each month. Again, we invest into a crypto portfolio. So we just see also that as a collective. I mean, getting for us to pay out, which is not our model, obviously, but if it was our model, to pay 6 cents per month per token is like, what are people going to do with 6 cents per month that they get? So again, as a collective, and I think it's far much more powerful in terms of having this crypto portfolio that is basically keeps accumulating within the actual token series. But yeah, that's pretty much in terms of what I want to talk about in terms of the net rent, what we do with the net rent side of things. But yeah, it's I noticed that Blockchain John just joined us. Hello, John. Hope you're well. But yeah, look, it's I hope that sort of gives everybody an idea in terms of what we do with the net rent. And again, I'll open up for it's a Q&A, so I'll open up if people want a mic. I'll give the mic if you want to ask any questions. Always like prioritize the people that do join in terms of questions. We do obviously get questions throughout the week, and that we also basically raise here. But yeah, look, we did have actually one question throughout the week, and again, as I said, I always put a priority of people joining live to ask any questions. So, but yeah, we did actually have one during the week, and that was in terms of okay, well, the obviously the property in the crypto portfolio in there. So when do you actually sell the cryptocurrency? And is there a point we sell out of the cryptocurrencies? And the answer is no, because again, we're not here to try to manage the crypto portfolio and try to time the market. We're here to accumulate, and basically the objective is to stick to blue chip cryptos and be able to keep accumulating those, because these, in terms of our model, is that we never sell the properties. These properties are basically held indefinitely, and so we also see the actual crypto portfolio also to be held indefinitely. So again, how do people actually cash out some of their profit? Well, they can cash out by actually selling their using the BRIK Dolphin token series, selling out those tokens in a secondary market. So whether that's basically through our platform, or basically people can sell peer-to-peer. So again, we tokenize on the Ravencoin blockchain. So people basically can take their BRIK Dolphins to their own respective wallet, in a Ravencoin asset-aware wallet. And people basically can actually sell between each other if they like, as long as they've been certified by us on our platform. There's no reason that people can't do it peer-to-peer. So again, it's hope that sort of answers that person's question in terms of when we sell crypto, what we don't. That's the short of it. We like to, again, this is our model. We're here for the long term. And basically it's about being on a long-term journey with the BRIK family community. And hopefully people also pick up some knowledge along the way in terms of real estate investment. So again, we see that this is we don't see in terms of people that they'll just have tokenized real estate. We see that one, in terms as a way for them to also be able to access traditional real estate by using, by leveraging off their property tokens, that they might want to sell some of them in a few years' time and be able to go and buy their own properties in terms of wherever they're from in their own city, and be able to access traditional real estate. So we really see tokenized real estate as a way to complement, if people have got an existing property portfolio, as a way to actually complement their real estate portfolio by be able to access properties from all over the world, and then really diverse their portfolio of real estate property. And people that actually can't access real estate because of obviously, as I said, give you the challenges of people to borrow money to buy real estate. Again, for those people to be able to start their journey in real estate and be able to really have the benefits that comes from actually owning real estate and start their journey in it. So again, we see that as a great mechanism for people to for such a small amount of money and be able to accumulate every month tokenized real estate. And again, whether it be ours, whether it be my colleagues who are tokenizing around the world, it's about really accumulate a portfolio of real estate that's from properties all over the world. That's the key in terms of having a really diverse portfolio of real estate, which basically before in traditional real estate, it's really hard. But now in New Frontier, people can do that through the tokenized real estate way. So so I hope that sort of gives a bit of insight in terms of that our objectives with our model. Yeah. But yeah, look, in terms of as I said, if there's no questions, again, this is an open mic sessions for any questions that people want to ask. And I said, this is also being recorded as a video version of it. So so it's before we start sort of wrapping up, also shout out to the Indian community around the world. Indians in India and in Australia, because we have got quite a large growth of Indian community here in Australia. There is some common passions that we have with the Indian community, and they love real estate like we do. They love cricket. They're mad about cricket. I haven't seen someone more passionate than the Indian community with their cricket. And there's some great players that have come out in terms they love our Bradley, which is a former player who then also done some Bollywood movies, and also their fantastic Sachin Tendulkar, who was a legend. He's a former player who we all have mutual admiration for. So again, the reason I also mentioned the cricket side of things is because that's the Australian team is actually over there in India at the moment, and they're about to start their first test tomorrow. So let the best team win, obviously, as Australian. I'm going to say to the Australian team, all the best. But yeah, they're over there for 4 tests, and that starts tomorrow in India. So good luck to everybody. Hope people enjoyed their experiences over there. For those people who don't know what I'm talking about with cricket, it is a very long game. So the traditional game, it goes for 5 days. A test cricket goes for 5 days, and I kid you not. So so blockchain John, if you're wondering in terms of what cricket is all about, I'm not sure whether you've heard. It is very long game. So I don't think actually I've even heard of any other game that goes for 5 days in other sports. So, but it is the pure form of the game. It is the 5 day game. I mean, there is 1 days and there is a shorter version that goes for around 4 hours, 5 hours. So there is three forms of cricket, but the real cricket, the real that people always talk about in terms of what is the genuine real cricket, that it is the test cricket. So it's a shout out to the Indian community around the world, and look forward to the test series. So it's quite a very, very, very cultural in Australia as well as India. How are you, blockchain John? Are you good?
Yeah, how you doing, bro? I just wanted to jump on here, listening to you talk.
Thank you, sir.
I always enjoy your spaces. It's a little after midnight here. I just wanted to jump and say hello before night. But there was, I guess you can call it, burning the midnight oil kind of headline. Yeah. That never came to mind before, but listening to you and talking about, tokenization and assets, so this is the first time I'm going to ask this question. I've never asked it before. It probably will sound odd, but let me just go ahead and ask it. So this is what I messaged you. What if the IPFS protocol goes down? What's the alternative to keep JPEG images?
You're talking about tokenized real estate?
Yeah, well, since you're tokenizing, I'm assuming that you're using the IPFS protocol to mint those images, the dolphins, or, well, I guess it would be the dolphins. Actually, you technically use koalas as well, right? The koala image, IPFS.
Well, no, actually, there is no image. So the actual property token itself, in terms of, say, the dolphin token, so if you go on there on the scanner, there actually is no picture. We call it obviously the BRIK dolphin token series, and we use the dolphin as to sort of the symbol of the actual series. But basically, it's just like saying in terms of the Raven native token, the Raven coin native token, there is no picture. It's just a currency, right? So basically, the BRIK dolphin is represented by a token, but there's actually no picture of it, the actual token itself. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people do that. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that shouldn't be much of an issue if IPFS goes down, because it wouldn't be associated with you.
No, it's got nothing. I mean, again, that's just obviously its pure form. When you start talking about property tokens, that is the pure form of doing it, because obviously there is no picture. There's the token is obviously the actual. You've got one token, BRIK dolphin token. There actually is the value behind that represents the in the token series. Yeah. Obviously, I know you enjoy my pictures, my photos that I put up, and obviously we do mint those as to showcase in terms of where the property is and what's happening, like I did this morning, and I'll send you one your way as well. This morning's walk around the Brisbane CBD. So I'll send that out to you, John.
All right.
Well, that's fantastic, mate. Thank you for joining. Good night, mate. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye now. So we like to showcase in terms of the locations of the property and some of the key icon spaces around where the properties are. So this morning at the Brisbane CBD, actually yesterday, I was at the new farm, which is near the city, which is called the Powerhouse, which is it's an art precinct in terms of where people can actually perform comedy. There's always different types of artistic shows on. So it's quite a diverse art precinct. So that's called the Powerhouse. It's actually used to be in terms of where the power came from, an old place, and that they actually done a renovation and brought back to its former glory with art and all in terms of the precinct. So I took some photos yesterday of that as well. So again, it's creating a bit of activity on the Ravencoin blockchain with these photos that I tokenize and share around and showcase people in terms of what these where these properties are and the beauty of some of these places around Brisbane and the Gold Coast. But yeah, look, it's as we sort of start the wrap up. So just sort of seeing what's happening in the coming days. So we do our so tomorrow we've got the What is Real Estate Tokenization Twitter Space show, which basically we it's more of a generic. Obviously, the BRIK Q&A today is obviously it's focusing around us in terms of what we're doing. Tomorrow's session is more of a just a generic in terms of tokenized real estate. What is real estate tokenization and providing education and having various people come on and be able to share their experiences and in terms of what's happening in tokenized real estate. So that's on tomorrow. I'll put the pins. So I'll put the links to it on this feed. So, but yeah, look, I think we sort of start wrapping up, and again, really appreciate Mike who was on live and Blockchain John. Really appreciate, and C3 Media as well. So really appreciate you guys to listen live and be able to ask questions as well. Thank you, John. Paul, same place, same time next week. We'll do some more on BRIK Q&A. So take care. Have a great evening, great afternoon, great morning. Depends what part of the world you're at, and stay safe. Bye for now.